What if I told you that behind some of the everyday products we use, there could be a story of forced labor and even slavery? Today, we're uncovering the real story behind China's Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act and the disturbing evidence that led to its creation. Stay with us as we dive into how one of the world's largest economies might be building its empire on the backs of oppressed people. The focus of our story lies in northwestern China, a vast region known as Xinjiang. It's home to the Uyghurs, a mostly Muslim ethnic minority who have lived here for centuries. Xinjiang is also rich in resources, cotton, minerals, and solar-grade polysilicon, used in everything from our clothes to our tech. But in recent years, this region has become notorious for something darker. Starting around 2017, reports began surfacing about re-education camps, places where Uyghurs were allegedly detained and forced into labor as part of a government crackdown under the guise of counterterrorism. So what's really going on here? Investigations by organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International have revealed shocking details. Satellite images show what appear to be massive detention centers in Xinjiang, and testimonies from former detainees describe a life under harsh surveillance, forced cultural assimilation, and even forced labor. People who've escaped these camps talk about working long hours with no choice or pay, often in factories linked to China's booming supply chains. In one powerful testimony, a former detainee describes being transported hundreds of miles to work in a textile factory, cut off from his family, with no idea when or if he would return. So, how did the world respond? By late 2021, the United States had enacted the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. This law aims to ban imports from Xinjiang unless companies can prove their products are free of forced labor. In other words, it burdens businesses to show that they're not profiting from forced labor. This was a game changer. The U.S. import ban shook up global supply chains, from textiles to technology, as companies scrambled to ensure their products weren't linked to forced labor in Xinjiang. You may be wondering, how does this affect me? Well, think about this. Xinjiang produces about 20% of the world's cotton. Imagine how many clothes, towels, and sheets that could mean. And it's not just textiles. Polysilicon from Xinjiang is essential for solar panels. If you're trying to be eco-friendly, that's a tough reality. Several big-name brands have been linked to forced labor allegations directly or indirectly. The scary part? These products are everywhere, from your favorite clothing stores to the tech in your pocket. China's government, however, denies the allegations, stating that these vocational training centers help counter terrorism and poverty. They argue that the people in these centers are there willingly, learning skills and securing jobs. But human rights advocates argue otherwise, pointing out the intense surveillance, lack of freedom, and forced cultural assimilation of Uyghurs. In a shocking report, Human Rights Watch documented cases where people were reassigned from these centers to factories across China, unable to leave. So, is this a vocational program or a modern form of slavery? As more details come to light, consumers worldwide are questioning their purchases. Do we want to buy goods potentially tainted by forced labor? And what responsibility do companies have to ensure their products are ethically sourced? Boycotts and petitions have been launched to pressure brands to cut ties with suppliers in Xinjiang. But for major companies, disentangling from Xinjiang isn't easy. Global supply chains are complex, and tracing every component's origin is a costly, lengthy process. So, what can you do? Start by being an informed consumer. Look up brands and their supply chain practices, support companies with transparent sourcing, and, if possible, consider buying fair trade products. If there's one thing we've learned, it's that our choices, big or small, can make an impact. As governments and activists work to end forced labor, our awareness and choices can drive change too. If this video opened your eyes, hit like, subscribe, and share. Let's keep the conversation going in the comments. Do you think we're doing enough to combat forced labor? What will you do differently after learning about this? See you in the next video.